Depersonalization and derealization are a distraction. They're a distraction from the real problem. So I want you to see depersonalization, realization as like a check engine light on a car. If you see the check engine light come on, you don't immediately think, man, I've got a check engine light problem. You know, because you've been taught that the check engine light is actually pointing to a deeper problem within the car that needs to be looked at. We need to look underneath the hood. But let's imagine for a second that you weren't taught that, and let's say that the check engine light was so bright that it just completely overwhelmed you and it was just impossible to drive. Well, you may think, hey, there's this light issue. And that's why education is so important. I know that, whenever I'm working with clients, they just want to get to the techniques. They just want to get to the how-to. And there's definitely plenty of things that we need to do to get your body and nervous system out of a state of traumatic stress. But before we do any of that, we have to get you understanding what's actually going on. Because if we don't do that, you're still going to have a symptom-focused approach, which is going to waste your time. You're going to spend all your time trying to accept the symptoms or distract away from the symptoms or outthink the symptoms, outlogic the symptoms. And that's going to produce minimal results, at best short-term results. But once I teach my clients this, that the symptoms are biologically correct for the state of your nervous system and the state of your body, it allows us to move on from trying to wrestle away symptoms that are appropriate for the state that you're in. If you're being eaten by a lion, it is appropriate for your brain to dissociate you. And you may think, well, I'm not being eaten by a lion. I would probably agree with that. I mean, unless you work at a zoo and maybe there's like a 1 in a billion chance that you're watching this video and right now you're being eaten by a lion, but probably not. 99.99% of people, it's stress that has built up to the point of traumatic stress. You could see it as like water in a cup, and eventually your nervous system got overwhelmed. And your brain thought and is thinking right now, if you're going through these symptoms, that you are about to be eaten by a lion. And so your brain is trying to protect you from the pain of being eaten by a lion by dissociating you, which comes from a Latin root word that means to sever or separate. But when you don't know that and you're experiencing these absolutely terrifying symptoms that are the most terrifying thing that you've ever been through, and then you tell people about it and they don't believe you because you look fine, right? They'll look you up and down like, what are you talking about? They don't understand that you can be going through absolute hell on the inside, and on the outside, things look quite okay. Maybe if you're having a panic attack or something, there's obviously a very physical representation of that they can see. But people don't take it seriously. And it's just the most infuriating thing that you've ever gone through. You're experiencing the most terrifying, horrible thing that you've ever been through, but yet people don't understand it. And there's no test that you can take that's going to show exactly what you're going through. And so that's why you don't need to try to explain what's going on to everybody. Be very selective with who you explain what's going on to, because most people are not going to get it. And if somebody doesn't get it, you need to accept that. But then the symptoms start to deteriorate. Am I saying that right? Deteriorate. Is that right? Anyway, they deteriorate your life. It affects your relationships. It affects your job. It can affect your sleep. You can't think. You can't concentrate. And suddenly the gap between you and living a normal life just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're missing out on life's precious moments. You start to realize, you know what, it's been a while since I've spent time with my friends. You start to be physically present in moments, but you're checked out, and all you can focus on is the symptoms. Or maybe you're just daydreaming. You're in the past, the future, your mind is just not even there. And all of a sudden, there goes Christmas morning. There goes birthday parties. There goes what makes life worth living, which is being in the present moment with your friends and family. And there's just so much emotion attached to it, and the symptoms are so terrifying. And then you get online, and everybody's got a different opinion about it. I remember whenever I was going through symptoms, and this person would say this thing, and this person would say this thing, and I'm just like, I didn't really know who to listen to. And then you see comments of people that have been struggling for like 20, 30 years, and you're like, oh my God, is that how long it takes? Like, what if this is me? These symptoms are absolute hell for people, not just because of how terrifying that they are to experience, but because of all these other things that we're talking about. And then you go to a therapist, and I love therapists. I love licensed mental professionals. But a lot of times they've never even heard of these symptoms. I speak with people every single day. They went to multiple licensed mental professionals that didn't understand the symptoms, had to look them up, which just destroys hope. Because if they didn't even know what they were, how are they supposed to help you overcome them? And then people go to a doctor, and the doctor sometimes will have heard of them, but a lot of times hasn't heard of these symptoms. And then people try all these programs that claim to be able to get rid of the symptoms, and maybe they work for a little while, but they don't work in the long term. Usually by the time somebody shows up to my doorstep, they've tried 2 to 3 different online programs, and they'll be like, hey, have you heard of this program? And I'm like, yes, thousands of times at this point. I've worked with people that have taken that program. Yes, every single day, people tell me that they've taken that. And it's usually a program that's very symptom focused. It's usually acceptance or distraction, something like that. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of education about these symptoms. And that's part of what's fueling this big ball of chaos as far as people getting the help that they need. There's just not enough education out there. And so what I did whenever I was experiencing the symptoms is I just kept looking until I found people that actually understood what was going on. And I eventually had to consult with some of the top trauma experts in the world. And I finally started to get answers to my questions. Once I started to understand that depersonalization and realization are connected to trauma, all kinds of light bulbs went off. And yet, as soon as I say trauma, because we all have a 20th century understanding of trauma, you're going to think of past events, sometimes exclusively connected to your childhood, which is an antiquated 20th century understanding of trauma. A 21st century understanding of trauma would say that it is a state of overwhelm in the nervous system. And no, it does not just affect war soldiers. No, it does not just happen whenever you are in a car accident or lose a loved one or go off to war or go through a natural disaster, things like that. In fact, there's a lot of people that go through those things that don't walk away traumatized. So it's not an event, it's a state. It is a state of overwhelm. And for most people that I work with, and this was definitely my situation, depersonalization, realization happened because there has been a long buildup of stress, which is complex trauma, right? Think of it like pouring, water into a cup. And that's why you can't seem to get the symptoms to go away, because they are going to be there as long as your body and nervous system are overwhelmed. And if you've walked around in a stressful state for a very, very, very long time, you've developed what's called sensory triggers, which is sensory data that has been conditioned to be associated with threat because of lots of painful past experiences. And these sensory triggers are subconsciously causing your body to go into fight or flight and then eventually into the freeze response, which is a trauma response. That's once you hit that point of overwhelm. And so you've got a lot of sensory triggers that need to be desensitized. You've got a lot of buildup in your body. And the thing about neural pathways is the more that they fire, the faster that they fire and the more efficient that they get in putting you into fight, flight, freeze response. These neural pathways of threat association. And so over time, your body has gotten more and more efficient at going into fight, flight, freeze response. That's why time is not making this better. Not only is time not going to fix this, time is making things worse. Every single day that goes by and you don't learn how to self-regulate, you don't learn how to get into your body, which is called interoception, the experience of the embodied self, and befriend your body and learn how to relax your body and release the tension, adrenaline, and emotion from the body. Every day that goes by that you don't get proper co-regulation, humans heal humans, up to 45% of healing this is another human who understands you and can give you hope. Every day that goes by that you don't listen to your body and you just drive your body into the ground, you muscle your way through, you're not prioritizing sleep and nutrition and hydration and having boundaries, DPDR are still going to stay there. They are there to separate you from the buildup in the body, right? But as long as you're on a hamster wheel trying to directly get rid of symptoms that are biologically correct for the state that you're in, you are distracted away from dealing with the root problem, which is what's going on in your body. And then lifestyle adjustments that will help your body not be so stressed out and fatigued. And this is what I do with my clients. It's nothing fancy. Once you get an understanding of why the symptoms are there, now we can move on to dealing with what the real problem is, which is overwhelm in the body and nervous system. And then all I do is I just give people a lot of hope and encouragement along the way, because it's very, very up and down to get back in your body. Number one, before you can even befriend your body, you have to get back in your body, and you're up here all the time. You're constantly in your head. And so it's this process of getting back into the body and starting to feel what's happening in the body and befriend your body and release the buildup and literally just audit your life and make a lot of lifestyle adjustments. It's not an overnight process, but it's doable. But you're never even going to begin that journey as long as you're in a wrestling match trying to get the symptoms to go away that are biologically correct for the state that you're in. Depersonalization, realization are a distraction. And the only way that you're going to get off that hamster wheel is to get proper education. And this video has begun that journey. I do have a free masterclass. It's called the 5 Shifts to Heal from Anxiety and Depersonalization Realization. Click the link below. It'll go a lot more in depth into this education, and it will really, really encourage you. That is it. Smash the like button if this helped you. Comment something below. And I appreciate you guys' patience. I haven't been responding to comments very much lately. I've been moving for the last couple months into a new house. That's probably why you notice my background looks different. I'm actually in my garage, and it's actually pretty cool because there's lots of space in here. And but anyway, you ever move and you're just like, are we hoarders? Like, there is so much crap that we're donating or selling. Like, it's just amazing how it accumulates over the years. But anyway, I'm going to start responding to your comments again, and you guys are amazing, and I hope you have an awesome day. We'll talk to you real soon.